Super 7 ThunderCats, the ultimate heroes. Hello, Brian, and welcome back to another ThunderCats discussion. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. It's nice and warm in this room and cold outside. So I'm in a nice toasty room and just need a little blanket and a hot chocolate.
How are things on your end in terms of finishing off for 2022? Running around?
Well, yes. I mean, it's always that fine thing where everybody's like, "Oh, the end of the year is December 31st." But if you work in manufacturing, the end of the year is January 30th because December 31 means nothing to the Chinese factories. They keep working right through, but January 30 is a big deal. But yeah, there's piles of stuff over here of stuff that's all leaving last week, next week, the week after next, the first week of January. There's an amazing amount of product coming out of the factory.
That's exciting because like you said, Chinese New Year it's always like your deadline when it comes to things have to leave, but then otherwise it gets pushed to March, and then from then on only there's another delay. So what?
Yeah, you miss all of February, and then with March, everybody's like, "Oh, they're back to work in March." March means they're working at about 50% speed. Not everybody's come back. People leave, they don't come back. And then April, they're 75%, and May, they're 100%. So February through part of March, you've got a good 6 weeks at least where you're not really getting much of anything done. And
No, that's a problem. So what has shipped or what is still meant to ship before that January deadline?
lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. And I've got a bunch of stuff. Okay. Mandora and the electrocharger. There we go. Mandora and the electrocharger have shipped from the factory. They shipped last week. So these are out the door. I don't know what you have or haven't seen on these lately, but I got there's
That
too many
box is
boxes.
huge.
Um, this is the most unglamorous unboxing ever. I would be fired from YouTube. This is not how you do it. Come on. Need like 3 hands for this. There's the no, I can't see you, but there's the electrocharger. This is the part people care about.
That's fantastic.
So these two shipped last Friday. So these have left the factory. So there's the electrocharger looking as beautiful as ever. And Mandora shipped along with it. So I'll be better about this one. And there's Mandora.
Wow.
So those shipped last Friday. So there's literally like so many boxes here. It's crazy. Let's see. Next up, SilverHawks 2. Well, actually, Thunder Tank, but we'll do Thunder Tank last because it's really big. SilverHawks 2. Here's the throne. So SilverHawks 2 will ship either first week or second week of January. So we're receiving we've gotten final samples of most everything and we're in pack out. So there's your throne. As everybody knows, it's much bigger than
That's beastly.
Huh?
That's beastly.
It's gonna fit a giant man in it. Come on. Let's see. These are a little bit earlier samples because our designers live everywhere and they've got the final samples. So these are a little bit earlier samples, but so wave 2, obviously.
Wow.
And it's not exactly the right, obviously not the final box on this one, but these were sort of some of the early blister pack outs and everything else like that. This guy weighs a ton. Uh-oh, I'm hearing things about him. But there it is. Bluegrass. And you can see the updated paints on him a little bit. I can pull him out maybe a little bit. And then go. See if I tilt it back, you can get the light in there a little bit better. But SilverHawks 2 is either leaving the first week or second week of January. So they're in production. We've got more final samples like this one, but they're at the designers' houses and not my office right now. But those are, in production and will be out the door. On SilverHawks 1, let's see here. SilverHawks 1 is a little bit further behind than SilverHawks 2, but basically on the same timeline. There's second week, third week, fourth week of January X Factory for those. This is not the correct paint though. So we keep updating. The paint becomes so problematic with these joints, so we keep updating the paint. So this is not the correct paint. Obviously, everybody's gonna be like, "What happened to the paint?" It's like, this is not the correct paint, but it's the correct blister and box back out.
That's beautiful and shiny.
And then yeah, I have that silver someplace, right? As you can see, this is not the correct inside, but pack out blister samples and everything to make sure it sits in the box correctly and survives shipping, all that kind of stuff. But these come out second, third, fourth week of January. Let's see here. Then that's gotten away from your namesake. We're not talking about ThunderCats here. So
It's same universe.
Yes, it's true. Then we've got a toy version. This is an update. I know the earlier Chitara we showed the wrong one. So here's toy color Lino.
Man, that's brilliant.
And then the back, the animated.
Yes.
The LJN black and white burst. Let's see here. Chitara toy. So this is an updated, more a correct color. So for anybody that's going to take a screen capture right now and tell me, it's like, trust me, I'm in fluorescent lighting inside a room, going through my computer's camera, through the internet to Eggman's computer. So the color may look off on your screen, but I assure you in real life that this matches the toy. So there's Chitara. And she's been updated since the one that we showed at New York. There's Monkey.
That's the vintage toy.
If I go this way, it's all glare. If I go that way, it's not glare. Find that just perfect zone. But
yeah, I can see it perfectly.
I don't have the the final Mum-Ra toy color here, but I think we also know what he's like. Here's an invisible Tigra. And we've got a cool metallic blue on there. So there's your invisible Tigra.
Wow, that
I'm trying to make so you can see it without it being completely glare. But and there's a little bit of white paint on the logo. There's white paint on the detail in the hair and on the forearms where he's got, the stripes. And then maybe I'd take it out. And then we could talk about the shoulder pads.
So when is he shipping?
I don't know if he makes it out before. I think he might make it out before Chinese New Year too. It's like all these delays are finally catching up. And, while we're catching up, we're also, obviously trying to get ahead on things too. So, yeah, mess with these.
So he's in production at the moment, right?
I will confirm all of that with you. Everybody's going to be like, I thought he was, but then at the same time, I don't want anybody to say that he's actually in production yet. Like it might be like, oh, he's going into production next week or something. But he's very, very close. So we're getting ahead on a bunch of these things. Make sure this is done. Now I got to get them out. Like, could it be noisier if it wanted to be? But for everybody, there's your pad on the elbow. So new tooling. Correct tooling. Let me rephrase that. Correct tooling. But that's Invisible Tigra.
You can see clearly that paint there on the logo. It works perfectly with that. Stuff. Yes.
Yeah, white. Yeah. Try to drop them in there. We got that, and then there's the thing. So for scale.
Okay, so that was not an exaggeration, those pictures of Josh with a tank. People are saying it was photoshopped. It's not.
It's what? You were saying what?
That it was photoshopped.
No. Here's the Thunder tank in the box. It's gigantic. This is going to hold everybody. But this is the final thing, and these start shipping. These start shipping in 2 weeks. I'm actually going to email you some photos of like the factory of like just piles of parts and stuff so you can have them to drop in. So right now, everybody, Agne's going to drop on some images from the factory. But yeah, they're basically, done. Like it's going to be a conveyor belt that goes all the way through January, but they're basically done with the first batches of them, and they're just boxing them up and packing them. And then I think the first container comes to the factory either on the 18th or the 19th, and then they just start rolling every week until the end of January. So it is here and big, and gigantic, and heavy. As you hear me say that, it's like this thing is so heavy, it's crazy. In a good way.
And it's still one piece. It's not like you have to assemble the paws or anything. It's like we discussed before.
It's all one piece.
Okay.
All one piece. The only parts that change are if you want the solid cover versus the clear cover.
Yes.
Let's see here. Josh was also texting me something, but I was like double checking some dates, but everything seems fine. That was a quick run through of what did we do? 2, 4, 9. I don't know. A bunch of figures. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff leaving literally like right now to next week from everyone. So it's finally catching all back up, which is overdue and great because Lord knows it's been killing me.
It's definitely an exciting time to be a ThunderCats fan right now because I mean you've got everything just coming and coming and coming and coming, and then you are surprising us with wave upon wave upon wave of action figures that are fantastic. So you have showed off some wonderful teasers at DesignerCon recently, and we've now seen many of those already. So what I wanted to find out from you, Wave 7 that you showed off, that was that the factory output that you had there of Wave 7? That was, or was that the same as a toy fair in New York? Was those were not
It was
colored?
the same as it was the same as Toy Fair.
Okay. Um,
Or not Toy Fair. I assume you mean New York Comic Con.
yes, yes, yeah, Comic Con.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the same. It was 3D outputs that had been painted.
Snarf is for some people a sensitive point in terms of the size of the figure versus the cost of the figure. But there's a lot of reasoning behind the tooling and everything that goes in that justifies the price point. And obviously, it's also split across the wave that you build everything in, like we discussed before. What can you comment
Yeah.
about Snarf should not be cheaper or lower in price?
It's a hard one because if we start going through like every single figure and being like, oh, this one's a little over, we got to charge more, and this one's a little under, we got to charge. He evens out with a couple of the other characters in the line that have a little bit more stuff and are a little bigger that are still at 55. You know, the economics of the world with inflation, international currency exchange. I know everybody's just like, oh, it's, the dollar is strong. You should be able to get more in China. And it's like, the factories still all bill in dollars. They don't bill in yuan. It's everything's constantly getting more expensive. It's never getting cheaper overseas. And so as we continue to move along with that, we're trying to be sensitive to price and try not to raise it as infrequently as we can. And so, yes, you could sit there and argue that Snarf is a little cheaper, but there's definitely other figures in that wave that are a little more expensive than we would have liked, and it kind of all evens out. We usually take that jump from 55 to 65 when it becomes just a little too much to bear. Usually most people can look at a figure and go, okay, I get it, But in terms of like where Snarf is and some of the other stuff, I mean, Snarf still has a bunch of extra parts. Every part is a cavity that requires another amount of steel around it. And so at a certain point, there's no science to this, so there's no way anybody listening can put a formula to it, unfortunately. But it's like, even though you have all these, you keep adding cavities. It's one thing when it's a bunch of little things sometimes because you can knock those all in together. But when it becomes heads and torsos and those big tails and stuff like Snarf has, it's like, well, every one of those cavities, it's like, well, if it was a piece this big versus a piece this big, it's still kind of the same price. But when you go from a piece this big to a piece that big, then it really escalates. And a lot of times when you'll see is when we get into some of those really big figures, depends. A lot of them are solid, but if you can make them hollow, then your plastic cost is less. There's a bunch of stuff that goes in there. So Snarf is deceptively not as cheap as you would hope him to be in manufacturing. It's like he's 10% less than some of the other stuff, but some of the other pieces and parts on the other figures are 5 and 10% more. As an aggregate, it pretty much is a wash. So, but I can understand why people would say that. It makes sense, especially when we've used the justification in the past for larger figures to be more expensive.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we've talked about the coloring of the figures a while back when it comes to basing it on animation cells versus what was on the TV itself. Now, a character like Mongor, for example, on the TV screen, the inside of his face was more pink than what it was on perhaps an animation cell. So, and some skin tones may appear darker on the TV and lighter in person on the cell. So, when it comes to that, do you have a style guide that you are instructed to follow. That it has to be like this because Warner Brothers says this is how it must be.
No, not very much. I mean, a lot of times it's, you can also look at like which conversion of the original animation have they used, and they'll be darker or more yellow or more blue or lighter. And then what medium are you watching it? Like you can go back to any one of these animations, and grab a screenshot and then go look for other versions and other places where it's being played and make the exact same screenshot. And every one of them will be a different shade. They're all in the same family, but they're in a different shade. And it usually somebody's perception of what the correct color is the color they saw on TV as a kid, not necessarily the color you saw on TV as a kid or the color I saw on TV as a kid. Um, so, we just try to go through everything and make our best judgment on what the correct or as close to correct. And a lot of times it is looking at the cell and the intention. Sometimes the cells just never translated that way on screen, at which point then we'll make a shift. But if there's a pretty big disparity across all the iterations and all the different, like the DVD look like this, the VHS look like this, the on-air look like this, the laser disc look like this, then we'll triangulate to what is, I guess, it's lowest common denominator makes it sound wrong, but what is that sort of the best middle ground that can satisfy everybody in terms of color, because everybody has a passionate opinion about some of those very subtle color tweaks, as a whole they'll be like, yeah, it's right, but specifically like that aqua is a hair bit too yellow for me, kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. So just as we finished with Wave 7's pre-order, you hit us with another surprise, and that is obviously Ghost Jagger on time for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yep.
pre-order closed last week. So can you tell us, that was a Super 7 exclusive. Will it be available
Yes.
anywhere else?
No.
Like Big Bad? Was it only available through you, or will Big Bad also have uh, it on sale later on?
Currently, it's only available for us. If Big Bad ends up having any, it's because they order it from us like anybody else does. But there's definitely a couple figures that will be coming out, across different lines during the next year that will be exclusive to Super 7. No different than there's been some figures in the past that were exclusive to Big Bad or EE. We're just, we're going to try to have a couple for ourselves.
Okay. So now with this Jaga figure, you teased before that it might be a figure in one of the waves, but now you've released it on its own. Was there a reason, or did you try and mislead us?
No, it was never that pre-planned or nefarious. It was more that, it was originally something we were considering putting in a line. And as we kept evolving what the future lines were going to be, it's like, well, we got to have this character. We need this character. It's like, where does Ghost Jaga fit in? Where does Ghost Jaga fit in? Because he is he's very important in the show, but he's also a variant of a figure we've already released. So are we taking up a new slot, old slot? It's that constant dialogue, no different than we've talked about before, where you're like, oh, if it's a repaint, does that take away from something else? We have these conversations continually. And he was ready to go, obviously. So we just kind of decided, rather than him taking a slot in the next wave, we could just release him on our own. And then if he's a figure you want, great, you can grab him. But it's that same thing we've talked about before, which when you get to that second version of the character, is it an essential, or is it some collectors are really going to want it and it's okay for other collectors to not want it? And Ghost Jaga sort of felt more like that, which is what we typically do at conventions and other things, but there's really not that many conventions happening right now. Just New York and San Diego are really the big two. So we took him out of like a core part of the line and said, okay, we're going to treat him as sort of a variant. And in so, then we will find an alternate way to release him, and then we decided to just make it a Super 7 exclusive.
Okay, now talking about variants, Jaga, his costume had that belt on, which was also seen in the cartoon in some episodes, and some episodes he didn't have it. So that is now the first time that we've got that belt on him, and also that other sword that he had
Yeah, yeah. I
in
was
some
going to
of
say,
his
yeah, we have
battles.
the other sword as well. Yes.
So now we've got the ghostly versions of those. And there was a missing head. Once again, I've mentioned it before, and obviously this is just a preference. So would we maybe see a younger Jaga as a variant somewhere down the line with
I'm
that
going to write
belt?
it down again. I'm just gonna go young jog ahead, just so I don't. I keep it over here for a minute. At some point, it might be what it'll be the Eggman pack, and we'll make the pack that all it is here's all the parts that I need from other characters repainted here and all this, and we'll put it all in one box. It'll be the Eggman pack.
Excellent. So
The ThunderCats.org pack. Let me rephrase that. It's the ThunderCats.org pack.
so tell me now with this pre-order that just closed, we got another surprise, and that is
Mm-hmm.
the reptilian wave. We've got three
Yes.
different reptiles in there, and what do you classify this as? 7.5, like you did with Mandora, or is it just it's not wave 8?
It's not a wave. It's a repaint. Obviously, there's new tooling that's going into it, but it's sort of once again what would have been a convention exclusive or a retailer exclusive. Originally, it was planned to be a retailer exclusive, but as we all know, business slowed down for a lot of people this back half of the year. And all of a sudden, retailers became very nervous about it. So we instead opened it up to everybody. And so it's sort of like a retailer slash convention exclusive, but you can get it from everywhere. Um, and the thinking behind it, of course, was obviously if you've got Slythe in hand, which I assume anybody that's made it this far into this video is like, I've got Slythe. It's such a great figure and it feels so great that, we were just like, oh, we got to do something else with Slythe. And we just kind of came back to the idea of like, well, what if we make, an army builders, we make the other reptilian soldiers, because there's different ones with different armor and different colors. And we figured that's a really cool thing to make. Once again, not something that everybody needs, but there's definitely collectors that will be like, oh, I've been waiting for that. I want them all. I love it. And it's completely fine for somebody else to be like, that's not a core character. It's not a core part of the line. I don't need that.
Okay, so I mean, I myself would definitely. I'm so excited to get these reptilians. They've been something that I didn't expect to see so early on at all. So, I mean, I myself was thrilled. I mean, those reptilians are in the opening sequence of the cartoon, so you
Mm-hmm.
see them every single time, whether you watch episode 1 or episode 100. So they're
Yeah.
always there. Now there's just a few questions that has come up about these guys. On the descriptions, it says that they've got gripping hands and expressive hands, but on the promo pics, it looks like they're both a set of gripping hands. Is it expressive or gripping hands, or both?
I know they have to have the gripping hands, I think, to hold the weapons. I would assume that they have both. If we messed up on the promo image and have gripping hands in their hands plus gripping hands loose, then that's just an error in our promo images. But they should have both sets of hands.
Okay. And then another thing that's also mentioned on there is the mace. It says it's a chained mace, but it looks like it's plastic. Is it the plastic mace, or does it have a chain like with Monkey?
I think it has a little metal chain.
Okay.
That's what I believe. I believe it does.
Okay.
That's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So of course
So
I'm going to be completely wrong.
that's cool. So
I believe it. I believe it is a chain. Yes.
um, now we've got these three as versions of Slide, obviously using the buck, the main buck. Now, what about the other mutants, the monkeys and the jackals? Would that be something to look at?
Well, first we got to make sure that people want to buy these mutants, the reptilians, and if they buy them, I think it's definitely something we can look at. The funniest part is we're like, oh, okay, this will be really easy to do. There's obvious different colors, blah blah blah, and then you get into it, and it's like, well, once again, as I said, like you talk about like their armor, and it's like, yeah, it just comes off the shoulder across, and it's a belt around the bottom. It still means it's a piece of tooling that's got to be big enough to go around the whole figure. So as much as there's not a ton of plastic in it, the tool is the same size as if it's a whole body for Slife. It's still just as big. It's just like, oh my God, all right.
So it still takes the same
Back ourselves
volume.
into a corner here. Yeah, it's still the same volume, so as much as it seems like, oh, it's just a little piece of armor, it's like, nah, it's an expensive piece of armor. But I don't know, I really like that kind of stuff, but we've talked about that before. I love all the paint variants and subtle differences where it's like, so you can have a whole lineup of them. That's the stuff I love.
So now,
And if you don't buy it, it's okay. It's okay. I'll buy it.
yes, definitely. So tell me now, we are now back on track with ThunderCats. It
Yes.
seems like that. So when is Wave 8 coming out? Is that still scheduled for roughly February next year? If we go every 3 months?
Let me look. Yeah, it's still scheduled for February.
Okay. And
I
then
don't think you can see my computer screen when I do that. I don't think so, right? It would be bad if you could.
maybe. So
No.
would that be 4 figures?
Yes,
Or
it's 4 figures.
an extra item?
I don't think so. No, it's 4 figures. I mean, you just got a whole pack of mutants and you got a Jaga. Like, well, just, let's get 4 figures out the door. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, how many waves have you got planned for next year?
I believe is it 3 waves? 1, 2, 3. And then there's 2 special items.
Okay, that was my second
So we have
question.
3 waves planned for next year and 2 special items.
Any big items?
Not yet, because this thing has not landed in anybody's hand yet. Once we get this thing in people's hands, then we can, we've talked a lot about stuff. I need to get it in people's hands. I need to make sure people are happy with it. I think they're going to be, actually, I think if you've liked anything that we've made, you're going to love this thing even more. So I think people will be overjoyed with it. And once people get it and they are indeed overjoyed, and then they say, yes, now give me something else big, then we can start working on something else big. But until that time,
Okay, now
I need you to have this. I'm banging on the box right off screen here. I need you to have this in your hand. I need it to be sitting next door to Snake
yes.
behind you. And then you go, oh yeah, I need more of this.
Okay, so talking about this lovely setup here, it's the wrong setup. So that conversation that you guys have been having, does it maybe include somewhere else to put my figures? My He-Man figures aren't quite happy with being kicked off.
We've talked about everything under the sun, but once again, like how you deal with Cat's Lair would be complicated. There's a lot of options within Thunder Tanks. Within Thundercat. It's got Thunder Tank on the brain. But all of those things we've said, that's great. Pause. Deliver this. Make sure people want something else. I think you are. And then we can really delve into that. But I don't want to make the assumption that everybody wants yet another giant thing.
Okay.
I would love to make that assumption, But
Yes.
I'm trying not to get ahead of ourselves. I realize that people are going to say, but you need to pre-plan to be ready. And it's like, I understand that, but that still, if I get it to you and everybody wants something else, we can still probably have something else by end of year without too much trouble.
Okay.
So
So
we've done
2020,
enough thinking about it.
okay, so the year might end on quite a high note.
I don't, like I said, I really want you guys to get this in your hand, and I want you, when I say I want, but at the same time, if I'm doing this, I know when you get it in your hand, you're going to go, man, this took a while, but these guys spent so much time on this to make sure this is the most perfect thing. And I think it will exceed all of your expectations. And I'm not saying that as hyperbole or the guy on this side of the camera. I'm saying that as a person that collects toys is like, holy shit, we fucking killed it on this one. Not that we don't try to kill everything, but this one, yeah, this one's
Something to be proud of. Definitely. That's a masterpiece.
Like I said, when you get it and you hold it in your hands, like I said, I don't think anyone's prepared for how heavy this thing is. There's going to be a couple guys out there doing like presses and squats with it.
Okay, cool.
Instead, like you'll have the little scales where it'll be like 3 stone equals this, and it'll be like 3 thunder tanks equals Mini Cooper.
Okay, talking about big things. Let's quickly talk about something much smaller. The burbles. When we get something, we move on already. We haven't even gotten it in hand yet. We're moving on. So we're talking about burbles. Would you consider giving them light up mouths? I've seen some customizers doing that. I know we talked about the possibility of doing that with Lino and Mamara in the LJ in toy versions, but is that something that you could do with burbles, for example?
Possibly. I mean, obviously, nothing's impossible. We've talked about a feature similar to that for something else, but we haven't started prototyping it yet. So there's another product, another license where having a light up feature would be really cool. The thing with light up features in the past is, we get all stuck into the weeds of this. Is like, if we do it, I want you to just see it like in the areas I want you to see it, like if it was the eyes. Like I don't want the whole head to kind of glow from the inside out. Like we got to make the rest of it as opaque can get, so that it's just in that area you need. But yeah, we're looking into that on that. What does it cost? What is assembly? What import restrictions do you have? Because all of a sudden now you have a toy with a battery, that's why most things don't ship with the battery included. It might be okay if you put the little thing in there. Well, hold on. Kyle, you want to talk? Come around this way.
Sure.
So Kyle's in from San Diego.
Yes.
Now he mostly works on our Power Rangers stuff, but Kyle can say hi to ThunderCats.org here.
Hello,
Hey,
Kyle.
How are you doing?
How's it? Good.
So, anyways,
Yeah,
Kyle's in town. He's excited about ThunderCats and SilverHawks too.
I am. I worked on the first 4 waves, and I'm excited to see it continue.
Yeah, but you're off screen saying these things. Come on, man. But have you picked up the Thunder Tank yet?
Not the box. I'm. Oh my gosh.
You hear that? That's real. That's real.
I don't know. I don't mean to sound winded. I'm usually pretty strong, but that's pretty heavy. That's no joke.
It's no joke.
So.
See, there you go. An objective secondary opinion who has no bias at all.
Yeah, just somebody whose checks he signs. No biases here whatsoever.
How long are you here?
I'm leaving now.
Okay. All right.
I'll be leaving now, and then I drive back Sunday.
Okay.
So I just want to come say hi and get out of here. But please.
Yep. I gotta finish this.
Enjoy.
I gotta finish. I'm a negative. Like it's not that high. Like everybody's here today, and there's no me too. Like we got a whole crew all of a sudden. It's been me all by myself all day. They wait for me to get on the video interview, and then everybody wants to come hang out. Oh, what's going on?
Hello, Nomi.
Yeah, Nomi's here. Johnny's here. I saw Christian and Dennis are here. Like, we got the whole design team here. You got any questions about it? We got the team.
For about 2 more minutes.
For about 2 more minutes.
Before we go back to Easter.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Right, dude.
See you.
Okay,
So there,
so
you got a bunch of people crashing your interview.
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Some guest VIPs coming in to make a little cameo.
Yeah.
So, other things that, with regards to the burbles, is there are certain key characters in terms of the burbles, and then there are generic ones that can also be army builders. Would you consider releasing them individually, or would they be suitable for a 2-pack or a 3-pack or things like that? Because it's a difficult, it's like a snarf situation, but
It is, but it isn't. Like with Snarf, you have like, he's going to have the stand so he can float, and he has the, with the alternate tails, and there's different heads, and you've got the sort of omens that you can stick in his mouth, and he's, there's a lot of stuff. When you get to the burbles, it's kind of like burble. And, there's a few accessories, there's a few things you can do. And it's like, how do you do the articulation that's meaningful when it's like,
Yes.
it kind of moves once. That to me strikes me as something where you'd probably do them in 2 or 3 packs at a time. Especially if you can combine a torso or some other parts, but you also want them to be unique. So I don't have a whole lot of details for you. I've got other surprises in line first before I get to burbles. So
okay. But they are on your radar.
Everything's on my radar. I mean, because I get into the weird nerdy stuff. I go, oh, here's the coloring book. The background of the cover of the coloring book has Jaga in green lines with the green backgrounds. Could you do an all green Jaga? I said Jaga and I didn't even mean Jaga. I'm picturing Mumra. But like the coloring book has a green Mumra on the back. Now it's supposed to be a ghost, but I'm like, it's a green on green Mumra. Like I'm looking at every reference everywhere about what can be made, but we are not making green Mumra right now.
Okay. No, as long as you do all these weird stuff, because that is what makes it so interesting. That you can have so many different versions of a character, and I mean, you have introduced us to a lot of different variations of other lines that are always intriguing. So if you can do that with ThunderCats, I mean, if you can prove that it exists, then you can make it.
Yes. And the other thing that's finally coming out, I'd have to look at the calendar to see exactly, but wave 3 of ThunderCats Reaction is finally coming too. So I don't know if that's on your question list.
Yes, you mentioned before that it's coming in July next year, unless it's
I believe
moved up.
And I believe that you would be like, I know exactly when it's coming.
Will there be a wave 4 for reaction?
Huh? Yeah.
Okay.
It will get back on track. I'm trying to look at the calendar, but I'm not seeing it right this second. But it's there. Yes, wave 3 of ThunderCats, wave 4, and definitely when you get into some of the really esoteric stuff, it's a little easier to do that at the reaction scale. It's a lot more digestible sometimes when it's like, I don't know, Purple Shorts Lion-O. I'm making it up right now from the episode where he works out at 24-hour fitness, and people will be like, well, I don't need that as an ultimate, but I kind of like that at $20 at 3 3/4.
Okay. Then talking about small things, blast effects. I know SilverHawks, you've got lots of blast effects. That is obviously their special effects when they shoot from the shoulders and from the feet. That opening sequence of the cartoon where Lion-O has his sword and he's got that red stream of light coming out, and also when he holds it up, like what you did with Prince Adam a while back. Is that something that you would consider including as a effects pack or somewhere else in another figure that you could add it in?
We've actually we've talked a lot about that transformation sequence before on like how could we do stuff there? Like, could you make a sword where you could pull the handle out farther so you could like how do we do some of those cool things? But it's sort of taken a back seat to getting the next wave and the next set of characters out. But we've talked a lot about that same intro scene is so ingrained in people's brains. And it's that fine line between, do you want yet another Lion-O or do you want a character you don't have at all? And we've aired lately to it's another character you don't have at all.
Yes.
Considering that we just made, we made a frozen Lion-O, we made a toy color Lion-O, like we made mirror Lion-O. It's like, okay, I get it. I've got some Lion-Os. Like, take a break. Take a break, okay?
Now let's have some
But yeah,
Javas.
we've talked a lot about that transformation sequence.
Okay, so I'm going to move over and wind down with SilverHawks.
Okay.
Now we've seen a lot of videos and from people that visited your stands at the last few shows, and it actually now shows the shine on the figures a lot better than what it has been seen. Now people have seen this in person, so that has changed a lot in terms of opinions. It's like people understand now what you were trying to explain. So that is at least finally going in the right direction in terms of people accepting this. It is not silver as in bright silver. It is cartoon based, and sure, it is SilverHawks, but that is what it is on the cartoon scale. You've now told us where you are in terms of the production of Wave 1 and Wave 2. Now, Wave 3, is that still on track for its release date next year?
Yeah. Wave 3 is just fine. Wave 1 and then the downstream implications to Wave 2 have always been the hardest, which is so funny because Wave 2 has overtaken Wave 1. And Wave 2 actually leaves before Wave 1. Wave 3, no issues at all. No issues at all.
Okay, so when can we expect Wave 4 as soon as Wave 2 lands? Because that's usually how it goes. Because wave
usually,
obviously we've had it's been
SilverHawks Wave 4. SilverHawks Wave 4 is tentatively scheduled for March, but may, depending on when things leave the factory and how long they take to get across the water into people's hands. So say Wave 1, because Wave 2 is going to start coming out. It's going to leave in early January. Wave 1 should be leaving in later January, but still in January. You're going to lose most of the month of February to shipping. That means it's about, things are back to about 28 to 30 days. Means we'll be shipping it to people March, since February is a short month. So people will start getting Wave 2 in late February, depending on where you are in the world, probably into early March. But Wave 1 probably is not going to be hitting people's inboxes until March. So SilverHawks Wave 4 right now is scheduled for the month of March, but it could easily slide into the first couple weeks of April. But it's in that rough timeline, depending on, because I want people to actually receive it, not like, oh, it got from the factory and we shipped it out, everybody's done. Yes. But if you still haven't gotten your order from me or from Big Bad or EE or an international distributor or whoever else, I want you to have it in your hands and be psyched. So you're like, oh, I got all these. Yes, I need those to go with these.
Okay, that makes sense. So can you put people at ease that we are going to see Copper Kid? Not necessarily in Wave 4, but he is going to get made. It's not like, no, we're not making Copper Kid.
Okay. Why would we not make Copper Kid?
Exactly.
Come on. There's a lot of characters we haven't made yet, but Copper Kid's the one from the main group that hasn't really been made. So you will get your Copper Kid in time.
Okay, now getting to previously unmade characters, are we gonna see any of them in Wave 4?
No,
not yet.
There's Wave 4 has a very distinct if wave 4 and wave 5, and I think even wave 6 are already in process, are already along the way. So, so there are some unreleased figures coming up, but they're not in wave 4.
Okay. So the one thing that a lot of people have commented on, and that's a concern that some of them had with Quicksilver's face, and that is again pictures of people taking photos of the character, wrong lighting, not final product. Do you have any comment on how he turned out versus what was on
Well, I mean,
the?
this one's hard because the body's not painted correctly, but like when they say the face isn't painted correctly, I mean, let's see here. The face looks really good. I think there were some comments on, that it just felt flat to some people, but it's supposed to feel a little flat because it's animated.
That looks brilliant. That really does look it does not compare to the pictures that has been going or doing the rounds in terms of
I think the one that people photographed at New York Comic Con was hand painted and not matte with the masks and stencil, and it was trying to find the right words. But it's not sort of like production paint versus like here's a hand painted face on this sample figure.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yes, it does. Okay, so will we see any vehicles for SilverHawks next year?
For SilverHawks, I have to deliver a Thunder Tank before I get to yeah, I mean, same thing. It's like, do people want the Tallyhawk? Do people want other things? Very likely, but they will want Tallyhawk if they get a Thunder Tank that they love. If they get a Thunder Tank that they're just okay with, they might not want a Tallyhawk.
The Mirage, you mean?
Or any other spaceship. I know you have a preferred.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And I don't want to be coy or sound like I'm avoiding the question, but at that price point, I have to get it, you have to deliver it, and I and you have to be confident that you want the next one before I get started on it.
Okay.
That's all.
I mean, you've got the Turtle van that's also coming out sometime next year. And
yeah,
that is
early next year. But yeah, same thing. It's making sure people have the confidence in that release as well.
Okay. Do you have a release date for that? It is off topic now, but do you have a release date for
on the Turtle van? I don't have a final release date because we retooled like half the van. I think I don't know if I think it's more like March right now, March, April, depending on capacity. Like it's very close, but it's not close enough that I have any degree of confidence that it will be leaving before Chinese New Year. I think I get promised all the stuff that's going to leave, and I feel very good about this. I'm talking about all the stuff we're making. Yes. Invariably, they're doing this for me. They're doing this for all the other companies that they work with at the factory. If they tell me a dozen things are leaving by Chinese New Year, 1 or 2 of those are going to fall. It's just inevitable
the way it is.
That because the factories, if you think about how everybody once again says December 31st, the end of the year, China says January 30 is the end of the year. So they're rushing to get everything done. They're working overtime, doing whatever they can to get everything done by January 30. But they're trying to do that for every vendor they have. Invariably, every vendor is going to have something that gets bumped. I don't know what. Something's going to happen.
Okay.
Somewhere. So in that regard, where like Thunder Tank is done and leaving, I have a high degree. I mean, I know it's going because I can see them, where Turtle Van's supposed to be but I don't know. I feel like that's going to be one of those that if something needs to fall off, that's going to be one of those pieces that falls off.
Okay.
I'd love to be able to be more confident in it, but at the same time, you're also dealing with the fact that if anybody paying attention to world politics, obviously they ease some of the COVID restrictions in China, but over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of political upheaval in China. None of that makes for factories hitting timelines. None of that makes for people showing up to work as they're supposed to, business as usual. So inevitably something's going to go wrong. I mean, but that's isn't that Murphy's Law?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. So somewhere, there's going to be a product that we have that seems fine right now. The other 95% will happen, and 5% something's going to happen. I just don't know which ones, and I probably won't know which ones till about January 27th, 28th. I'll get a call all of a sudden that says, "Oh, by the way, yeah, this isn't going to make it." But they want to make it because they want to bill me before they go on vacation.
Of course.
That's the real driving force, is that they want their fiscal year to be cleaned up and to have as much stuff done and paid for before they go away for Chinese New Year. So their impetus is to get things out the factory. But like I said, their impetus is to do that with every company that they're working with.
Well, we can't complain because we're gonna get a shitload of stuff.
You're going to get a
early next
shitload of
year.
stuff. Your inbox is going to be full of ThunderCats and SilverHawks and vehicles. I mean, you're going to get an electric charger and a Thunder tank.
That's so exciting. It's going to be great. Thank you so much, Brian. It's
All right,
really
well, thank you as
so much
always.
fun to talk to you. I hope you guys have an awesome Christmas.
Yes. It's funny. I'm like, I wish there was something else to show you, but it's like, wait, I just showed you like 15 things. Like, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yes, there is. It's going to be an awesome 2023.
It is going to be an awesome 2023, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. Look at that plug at the end. Oh.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay. Take care, everybody.